Hi, I'm Ravi. Welcome to the session on Parajumbles. In this particular session, we'll talk about various types of Parajumbles. My Twitter handle is @RaviHanda. You can use that to connect with me and to provide feedback. I would like to add that there is one more video on Parajumbles that I have made, which basically talks about how to solve these questions. You can watch that video before it. I think that would help. Now, what exactly are parajumble questions? If the order of sentences is altered and then it is given to you, and then you have to put them in the correct order, that essentially is the fundamental of parajumble questions. The questions are easy, but typically they are very time consuming in nature. They test the candidate's ability to connect different clues with one another. That is the key idea behind them. Let us look at a few types. Probably this jumbled sentence is the easiest type. In this, what happens is you are given a sentence which is broken into 4 parts or 5 parts, and then you have to form a coherent sentence out of it. Let's look at what is given here. A is where to he was exiled. You cannot start a statement like this. Napoleon Bonaparte escaped from Elba after the signing of the Treaty of Fontainebleau, a remote island off the coast of Italy, 1 year earlier. Now, very clearly, the statement has to, or the sentence has to start from B. And now, as soon as you have some information, you start eliminating the options. Option 1 is not starting with B, option 2 is not, option 3 is not, option 5 is, as well as option 4. So both 4 and 5 are starting with B. Now let us look at which one of them could be the answer. Option 4 has B, C, A, D, E. That means after B, it should come C. Napoleon Bonaparte escaped from Elba after signing of the Treaty of Fontainebleau. Okay, B, C, where to he was exiled. Doesn't make too much sense. Just to confirm, let me take B, D, A, C, E. Napoleon escaped from Elba, a remote island off the coast of Italy. Makes sense because it is now defining what is Elba. Where to he was exiled, again, makes sense. Now it is giving further description of Elba. After the signing of the treaty, again. So this is the essential correct order. You have B ending with Elba, which is a remote island off the coast of Italy. So you have D. Then explanation where to he was exiled. Why was he exiled is in C. When was he exiled is in E, which makes option 5 or B, D, A, C, E as our correct answer. Let's look at another type. This essentially is the most popular type when you are given 4 sentences and then you have to find out the order in them. Now, before solving these questions, what I sincerely recommend is, you have seen the techniques in the previous video on how to solving parajumbles. But one point which I want to emphasize again is before you even look at the options, just read through the sentences. Because going the other way around will make it very difficult. So let's just read through. If you are used to having your stimulation come in from outside, your mind never develops its own habits of thinking and reflecting. Marx thought that religion was the opiate because it soothed people's pain and suffering and prevented them from rising in rebellion. If Karl Marx was alive today, he would say that television is the opiate of the people. Now see, something very important has happened here. In statement C, you have Karl Marx, the full name. In statement B, you have just Marx. That means statement C must have come before statement B because the full name is used, the bigger is used. It is something like the abbreviation that International Monetary Fund will come before IMF in the paragraph. The description or the bigger part comes first. That means B will come after C. And television and similar entertainment are even more of an opiate because of their addictive tendencies. So it is talking about more of an opiate. Here in statement B, it was talking about that it is the opiate. That means D should come after B. Now, we have the order as C, B, D. We'll figure out A. Let's look at the options. B, A, C, D is definitely out because I need a C, B, D. Second is also out. Third is also out. And clearly, fourth one becomes our answer. This is, once again, I like to repeat, this is the most common type of parajumble questions which come. Let's look at a few more. It is also possible that you get jumbled paras or parajumbles with 5 sentences. Let's read through them. As I said, reading through the sentences is the first thing that you should do. He might make the opposite mistake. When I want to assign a name to this group of nuts, he might understand it as a numeral. Very clearly, this statement 1 is picking off from somewhere. So anything which is starting with a 1, which is the first option, cannot be the answer. Now, one can ostensibly define a proper name, the name of a color, the name of a material, a numeral, the name of a point of the compass, and so on. Okay, so it's talking about defining, maybe the beginning, may not be. The definition of the number 2, that is called 2. Pointing to 2 nuts is perfectly exact. But how can 2 be defined like that? He may suppose this, but perhaps he does not. See, this tells me he might take the opposite mistake and he may suppose this. So there is definitely a connection between 4 and 1. Because still now he, or who is this he, that hasn't been really introduced in either statement 2 or in 3. So we'll get back to this. The person one gives the definition 2 doesn't know what one wants to call 2. He will suppose that 2 is the name given to this group of nuts. Okay. So the connection that we were looking about is the definition is here. Someone is giving this definition and then it is continuing on that definition. The person gives the definition 2. That means 5 has to follow 3. And then he is talking about he may suppose this, but perhaps he does not. He might make the opposite mistake. So when you have words like the opposite mistake, there needs to be something which precedes the opposite mistake. There has to be a mistake which precedes the opposite mistake. So that mistake which is being talked about is happening in statement 4, which means 1 should come after 4. So till now what we have understood is you'll have a 3 and then 5 after it. You'll have 4 and then 1 after it. So 3, 5 and 4, 1 is there in option B. 3, 5 is here, 4, 1 is not. C cannot be the answer. D cannot be the answer. There is no 3, 5. E cannot be the answer. There is no 3, 5. Which means option B is the answer that we were looking for. So as you can see, as soon as you can spot a connection or even one pair, you'll be able to eliminate a lot of options. It will increase your speed a lot. So when you are practicing these questions, try to do that. Try to spot these connections between 2 statements or 2 sentences. Let's look at one final example. A different type. In such questions, what happens is that you are given a statement, a opening statement and an ending statement which is fixed. That is S1 here and S6 here. You have to arrange the other 4 statements which are there in between and what would be the correct order in them. So here, what is given to us is, let's just read through the text. For decades, American society has been called a melting pot. Okay, melting pot seems the key. P is differences remained in appearance, mannerisms, customs, speech, religion, and more. Cannot follow the melting point theory. The term has long been a cliche and half-truth. Yes, so there is some term which is being talked about. Now, I'm not saying that this term is melting pot, but this term can be melting pot. So I've just highlighted that. We'll come back to it. But homogenization was never achieved. But is a negative connector. So but is connecting to a previous statement in which something was said, but that did not happen. So something like that. So you need a statement which will be negatively connected to homogenization was never achieved. Yes, immigrants from diverse cultures and traditions did cast off vestiges of their native lands and become almost imperceptibly woven into the American fabric. Okay. S6, the closing statement or the ending statement. In recent years, such differences. Okay. So there are some differences which were highlighted. So this has become such differences. Which are those? We explained them in statement P. So that means P has to be the ending statement or the last statement. Where is P the last statement? Well, P is the last statement in 3 out of 4. So we are only able to eliminate one option out of them. So the third one is gone. Also, now I can see that the connection, the term which is mentioned in statement Q is nothing else but the melting pot, which means the first one will be Q. So now I know that I need to start with a Q and end with a P. That eliminates one more option. So it will be either QRSP or QSRP. Let's just see what should be the order in SNR, and that would solve it. But is a negative connector in statement R. So it should have come definitely after S because it is negating something. It is a negative connector or a contradictory connector, so to say. So that means the order that we are looking for will be R will be after S. Where is R after S? R is after S, not in the first option, but in the fourth option. And that is why our answer, which we were looking for in this case, will be QSRP, which is essentially option 4. I'd like to add that the place where I picked up this question from, the option B was given as the answer. So if you encounter this, don't get confused that I'm talking something wrong or something like that. I made sure that this is the correct answer. The correct answer is indeed QSRP. I'll repeat the basic logic. The term was referring to melting pot. That is why it started with a Q. Differences remained, and such differences was there in the concluding statement. So it will end with a P. But is a connector with a negative connotation of sorts or a contradictory connector. So it will come after the statement of S, which gives us QSRP as the answer. With this, I would like to wrap up this session on Parajumbles. Please provide feedback via Twitter. My Twitter handle is @RaviHanda. Thank you.